Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are plunging into a topic that feels both very current and, honestly, a bit like science fiction.
Definitely.
We're exploring exactly how artificial intelligence fits into the world of narrative fiction writing. Can it genuinely help you craft your stories?
It's the question everyone's asking right now, isn't it? And for this deep dive, we're looking at it from a really unique angle.
Yeah.
Our source material isn't just like a stack of articles about AI or reviews of writing tools.
No, not at all. The core of this deep dive, it actually comes directly from a detailed self-assessment. And it was provided by an AI itself.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, it's the AI basically laying out its own perceived strengths and, maybe more importantly, its critical weaknesses, specifically when it comes to trying to assist a human writer, with narrative fiction.
Huh. It's like getting the user manual straight from the machine itself, complete with what sounds like a surprising level of introspection about its own limits.
Exactly. So our mission today is to really unpack this perspective. What does this AI think it's good at? Where does it admit it falls short? And maybe most importantly, what does understanding its own view mean for you? Whether you're just curious, maybe a bit skeptical, or perhaps you're already, experimenting with these tools. We're going straight to the source to find out.
Okay, let's do it. So where do we start? The strengths.
Yeah, let's start with what this AI sees as its core strengths. It actually groups them under this heading. Core strengths. Leveraging the pattern ocean.
Okay, pattern ocean. I like that. It kind of implies the scale, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
And it says this is all about what it can do because, well, it exists as this massive language model trained on just tons and tons of text data.
Right, it's foundation.
And the very first thing it flags under strengths is its ability for massive scale pattern recognition and analysis.
So what does that actually mean in practice?
Well, it talks about instantly cross-referencing structures, tropes, character arcs, themes, genre conventions, you name it, across literally millions of texts.
Millions. The sheer scale is almost hard to really get your head around. It's basically seen, well, pretty much everything that's been written and digitized.
Right. And it claims this allows it to identify patterns, or maybe more usefully, cliches in your work that you might just be too close to see yourself.
Ah, okay. So it can spot that plot twist you thought was super original, but it's actually been done 1,000 times before.
Precisely. But it says it goes further than just spotting cliches. It claims it can suggest fresh combinations or even subversions of those common patterns.
Oh, interesting. So not just that's a cliche, but here's how you could twist it.
Exactly. And it also claims it can pinpoint why certain emotional beats or plot twists have worked historically. It calls this historical resonance.
Historical resonance.
That's a fascinating phrase.
Isn't it? It's not just telling you what is common, but maybe trying to explain why it resonates with readers based on, past success in the data. Okay, so it's offering objective diagnostics based on this huge data set. For you, the writer, this capability could mean what? Getting insights to avoid predictability.
Yeah, or sparking ideas for innovative twists, maybe validating structural choices based on all that data, not just your gut feeling.
Right, moving beyond just intuition. Okay, so that's powerful analysis. What about actually creating stuff? It lists idea generation and brainstorming at scale.
This is probably the one people think of most often, right? AI generating ideas.
I think so, yeah. It says it can rapidly generate just vast quantities of related ideas based on whatever prompts you feed it.
Like plot variations, character concepts, world-building details.
Scene possibilities, dialogue snippets, thematic angles, the whole lot.
You just sort of hit the button and get a flood of suggestions. Is that the idea?
Essentially, yes. It's tireless in that way. The benefit for you, the writer, is pretty clear. Overcoming that blank page syndrome almost instantly.
Yeah, that blinking cursor.
Exactly. And efficiently exploring loads of different paths without, spending hours just staring into space, hoping for inspiration.
That efficiency boost sounds huge, especially for productivity. What else does it highlight as a strength?
Structural and systemic analysis.
Yeah.
This seems to leverage its strength in, pure logic and mapping relationships between things.
Okay, so this is about finding inconsistencies. Plot holes.
Yes, exactly. Identifying plot holes, checking timeline inconsistencies, flagging broken cause and effect chains. It even claims it can stress test your world-building rules.
How so?
Like if you say magic works this specific way early on, it can try to figure out the logical consequences of that rule later in the story. Make sure you haven't contradicted yourself.
That's quite detailed.
Yeah, and analyzing character decisions against their established motivations, mapping how individual scenes actually function within the larger plot arc.
Wow, okay. That sounds incredibly useful, especially for the revision process. It's almost like having an editor whose brain works purely on, like, logic checks.
Pretty much. It aims to strengthen that narrative logic, ensure internal consistency, and help prevent those kinds of errors that can really pull a reader right out of the story.
Yeah, definitely want to avoid those. All right, so we've got analysis, idea generation, structure checking. What about just getting information into the story?
Ah, right. That's research and knowledge synthesis. Its ability to quickly access and synthesize just vast amounts of factual information is presented as a major plus.
Okay, so if I need to know, say, details about a specific historical period or a cultural practice or some scientific concept for my story, it can just pull that together for me.
That's the claim. Technical details, genre-specific lore, even things like language nuances or naming conventions, though it does admit its fluency can vary a bit there.
Okay. But still, that could save just immense amounts of research time, right? Letting you ground your speculative elements or enrich the authenticity without getting lost down endless internet rabbit holes for hours.
Absolutely. Keep you focused on the writing.
Okay, so last one in the strengths column.
Finally, yeah, it lists language manipulation and exploration.
So now we're getting right down to the sentence level. The actual prose.
Exactly. Things like generating text in various styles, maybe drafting descriptive passages, exploring different dialogue options for a character, or even drafting chunks of exposition based on prompts you give it.
And refining.
Yeah, offering synonyms, rephrasing sentences for better clarity or more impact. And it even says it can analyze your prose for potential issues like vagueness, repetition, or pacing problems at the line or paragraph level.
So those moments when you're just stuck on how to phrase something, or you feel like a sentence just isn't quite landing right, it could potentially give you alternatives.
Yes, exactly. Helping you maybe push past those little line-level blocks and refine the raw prose itself.
Okay.
So you can kind of see the pattern here, right? Its strengths are heavily rooted in processing massive amounts of data, identifying patterns within that data, generating variations on those existing patterns, and performing logical checks.
It's all about the patterns. Okay, that is a pretty powerful tool set, no doubt. But, and this is where I think it gets really interesting, this AI is just as candid about what it cannot do. It calls this section critical weaknesses, the limits of pattern matching. This feels like the crucial counterpoint to everything we just discussed.
Absolutely. And the very first weakness it names really cuts right to the heart of, well, human creativity, lack of true originality and emotional depth.
It states this really clearly, doesn't it? It says it just remixes and recombines existing patterns from its training data. It cannot generate genuinely new human experiences or emotions that aren't already sort of implicitly represented in all that text it learned from.
It really emphasizes its inability to truly understand or feel the profound emotional weight of human stories, trauma, joy, loss, complex love. It puts it very starkly. It says its emotions are, quote, probabilistic simulations, not lived truth.
Wow. Probabilistic simulations, not lived truth.
Yeah.
That's a powerful distinction it's making about itself. What's the risk here for you, the writer, then?
Well, the risk, if you over-rely on it, or maybe misunderstand its output, is that your work just ends up feeling derivative, lacking that genuine emotional resonance.
Because it can only mimic.
It can simulate the form of emotion based on countless examples it's seen, but it doesn't have the lived experience, the consciousness to imbue that simulation with, authentic soul.
Right. And following directly from that, it lists no inherent taste, vision, or authorial voice.
Yeah, this is another big one. It explicitly states it doesn't have personal taste, it doesn't have thematic obsessions like a human author might, or a unique creative vision of its own.
So while it can mimic a voice maybe, based on examples you give it or its training,
it can't originate that truly distinct, authentic, authorial voice that makes your work uniquely yours, that fingerprint.
And it also can't decide what story needs to be told.
Yeah.
Or what themes are most meaningful to you, the writer.
Exactly. Its suggestions, it admits, are based on optimizing for pattern coherence, what statistically fits, not on artistic necessity or your personal connection to the material.
Which means the output could feel kind of generic. Or maybe even soulless without strong direction from you.
That's the danger. It simply cannot replace your unique perspective and your artistic drive. It doesn't have one.
Okay. It also points out contextual blind spots and nuance, What does it mean by that?
Well, it says it struggles with things like deep subtext, what's not being said but is still crucial, or subtle character motivations that aren't explicitly spelled out on the page.
Complex situations, ambiguity.
Yeah, complex, ambiguous, or morally gray situations that really require human judgment and understanding of nuance are difficult for it. It sees patterns, not necessarily the delicate shades of gray.
What about things like cultural nuances or sensitivities? Can it pick those up reliably?
Those can be blind spots too, it suggests. Beyond maybe broad statistical patterns it found in the data, it might miss finer points or even perpetuate biases present in that data. And crucially, it struggles to understand the unwritten context that's just in your head, the specific emotional feel you're aiming for, or the subtle meaning that isn't yet explicit in the text or the prompt you gave it.
Right. So its analysis might miss those subtle character inconsistencies that are actually rooted in their internal conflict, or its suggestions might just be completely tone deaf to the delicate mood you've been carefully building.
Precisely. That nuance is hard for it. Then there's the predictability trap and risk aversion.
Okay, this seems like it's directly tied back to its pattern matching nature again.
It absolutely is. Its suggestions are fundamentally based on what has worked before, statistically speaking, across all that data it processed.
Which means it's not good at thinking outside the box.
It struggles to suggest truly radical, convention-shattering ideas that don't have much precedent in its training data, even if those ideas could potentially be brilliant. It tends to favor the statistically safe paths.
The probable routes over the potentially groundbreaking but, riskier choices.
Exactly. And yeah, like any model trained on existing data, it admits it can inadvertently reinforce existing biases that were present in that data. Social biases, genre biases, you name it.
So the risk is pretty clear. If you're not careful, it could actually nudge your work towards being more conventional, more predictable.
It could potentially dampen those truly innovative leaps if you just accept its suggestions without critical evaluation.
Okay. And finally, in the weaknesses section, the AI admits a lack of holistic story sense.
Yeah, this is about the big picture. It says it excels at analyzing the parts, individual scenes, specific plot points, characters may be looked at in isolation.
Natural.
But it struggles with the gestalt, the overall emotional impact, the thematic coherence of a complete manuscript as a single, unified work of art.
It doesn't really grasp how all those individual elements intertwine to create that sort of ineffable feeling, or the unique atmosphere, the emotional arc that makes a story truly sing.
That's what it seems to be saying. And it can't really know when breaking a conventional writing rule actually creates transcendent art versus just making a narrative mess. That requires artistic judgment it doesn't possess.
So its feedback, then, is going to be strongest on the mechanics, the local stuff.
Right. Strongest on mechanics, plot logic, local consistency issues, but weakest on that really profound subjective question. Does this work as a piece of art? Does it make the reader feel what I ultimately want them to feel?
Wow. Okay, so we've heard the AI lay out its pretty formidable pattern-based strengths and then its equally profound, very human element weaknesses directly from the source itself. How does it suggest we actually use it then, given this level of self-awareness? It wraps up with its view on the optimal collaboration, human plus AI.
And it's remarkably clear about how it sees the division of labor. It first lists your irreplaceable role. The human writer's role.
These are the things the AI just finished telling us it cannot do, right? The fundamentally human contributions.
Exactly. It lists visionary, originator, emotional core, tastemaker, voice crafter, meaning seeker, and crucially, ultimate decision maker.
So all the unique, artistic, experiential, and intentional aspects of telling a story. The why and the how it feels.
Precisely. Then it flips it and lists my best role, meaning the AI's own ideal function in this partnership.
And this list sounds very much like it's leveraging those strengths we talked about earlier.
It does. Pattern librarian, idea spark generator, logic checker, research assistant, draft expander, prose mechanic, diagnostic tool, and productivity booster.
It really paints a picture of a highly capable, very specialized assistant, focused on analysis, information retrieval, rapid generation based on what already exists.
But clearly not the artist. It's a set of powerful tools for the artist, and the source defines the key to success in this collaboration very simply. Use the AI strategically.
Okay, strategically, meaning?
Leverage its speed and its pattern processing power for those specific tasks where it really excels, brainstorming when you're feeling stuck, checking for those logical holes, pulling research quickly, maybe refining prose mechanics, generating variations to consider.
But, and I get the feeling this but is important.
Oh, it's crucial. And the AI emphasizes this itself. Always apply your human judgment, your emotional intelligence, your unique creative spark, your taste, and your vision to curate, adapt, and ultimately elevate whatever output it gives you.
So it can provide the raw clay, maybe, or some useful tools, but you are absolutely the one shaping the final statue.
It actually uses a really powerful analogy to illustrate this exact point. It says, I am a powerful chisel, you are the sculptor.
Ah, I am a powerful chisel, you are the sculptor.
That puts it very clearly. The tool is excellent for certain tasks, shaping, analyzing, generating variations on existing forms.
But the artist, the human writer, provides the vision, the emotion, the taste, and makes those final, crucial creative choices about what the work means and how it should ultimately feel. Okay, so to kind of synthesize this whole deep dive then, drawing directly from the AI's own self-assessment, AI offers some pretty impressive capabilities for analyzing patterns, generating ideas at scale, checking structure and logic, doing research, manipulating language.
All based on its massive training data, yeah.
And the AI itself highlights this critical distinction. It fundamentally lacks those human elements that seem essential for truly profound narrative fiction. Genuine originality, rooted in lived experience, real emotional depth, a unique personal vision or taste, that nuanced contextual understanding.
And that holistic, artistic sense, like gestalt, that makes a story work as a resonant whole.
Yeah, the source makes it abundantly clear, really, that the human writer remains the essential visionary. You're the emotional core, the one who decides what the story truly means and how it should ultimately feel to your reader.
The chisel needs the sculptor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into what is, frankly, a fascinating, almost strangely self-aware perspective from an AI considering its own role in human creativity.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? If an AI can analyze millions of stories, identify cliches, generate countless variations, point out logical flaws, and yet it explicitly tells us I lack true originality, emotional depth, vision, and holistic sense. What does this self-assessment from the source material truly mean for the future of narrative fiction?
How does understanding the AI's explicit limits, straight from the source, redefine the irreplaceable magic of human creativity for you? Definitely something powerful to ponder as you craft your own stories.